I mean, I think we're all witches, you know. I'm definitely like a believer.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's a believer in the power of women, not that only women practice witchcraft, but I do think that there is a specific and singular power that women have.
I'm Sam Highfeld with the writer and director of The Craft Legacy, Zoe Lister-Jones. Zoe, how are you?
I'm great, all things considered.
Yeah, great in our bubbles. Everyone's in their bubbles. I mean, I would love to throw this all the way back and kind of start at the beginning of your journey with The Craft. Obviously, the original film comes out in 1996. Do you remember like the first time you saw the original?
Yeah, it was at a sleepover party. I think we went and rented it from like a Buster or like a off-brand Blockbuster in Brooklyn. I was never a fan of like scary movies, and so I remember that like pushing it for me. It was I was taking a risk watching it, but I sort of like a riot girl slash rude girl in '96, and I had a shaved head, and I really like did feel and was made to feel very much like a weirdo. So
Sure.
like even though it was a genre that I wasn't super down with, I felt so seen, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
by the characters and the actors portraying them.
The number one rule of the craft: if a person is a danger to herself or others, they will be bound.
At what point kind of did you like get involved, and what made you kind of think like I would love to be the person who gets to do this?
Well, I had written and directed my debut feature, which was called Band Aid, and I was trying to figure out what the next feature would be, which is always a daunting question.
Sure.
And the Craft Legacy came to me. I knew Blumhouse was rebooting it, and so they asked if I was interested in pitching a take, which I very much was, and it was like a challenge that both terrified me and thrilled me. So I feel like when I feel both of those things, it's something that I should go towards, lean into, and then it all kind of just went from there. And here we are 2 years later.
I mean, what goes into when you're writing a film like this? And it's obviously it's a different story. It's a continuation of a story, but also, even in the trailer, we see like wonderful nods to the original. How do you kind of find the balance between like, you want to have ties to it. You want it to feel like it is a part of this greater universe, but also kind of to make it its own story. Like, how do you feel like you really worked on striking that balance?
Yeah, I mean that was probably one of the tougher balances to strike because I definitely the original is so beloved by so many
Mhm.
people. And so to carry on the torch is like a huge responsibility. And so I really wanted this film to stand on its own and not necessarily be beholden to the original. But I still wanted to pay homage to the original and give fans of the original that like nostalgic hit,
Mhm.
which is always so fun. So that there are a lot of like Easter eggs in it, but I think it was important to me to I rewatched the original and then I didn't watch it again
Sure.
on purpose, just to make sure that then I was really telling the story that I wanted to tell, that is a personal story to me, that I drew on my own adolescence. And also just really like I wanted to be speaking to today's contemporary landscape. And, that's a very different landscape in some ways than the mid 90s.
Sure. I do think one of the things that makes this film work so beautifully is the casting. Like the four girls, I felt absolutely in love with. Was it difficult for you to cast this film?
There are so many incredible young actors. I have to say, like, I was like, what's up with our generation? I was kind of like, are we not as talented as as these young people? It wasn't difficult in that in that there was sort of an embarrassment of riches, and yet when each of these young women showed up at the auditions and then ultimately tested, it was just like magic. It was really like life imitating art in that they each sort of were their characters already. They all, outside of Kaylee Spaney, who plays Lily, were already practitioners of witchcraft, and they all like fell instantly in love with each other. So it was really exciting, you know, to see, and was exciting to then go into production with that like just incredible energy and all the nuances that they brought to their characters.
If we can do that, what else can we do?
We need to put a spell on Timmy.
We don't want to hurt him though, right?
I wanted to be a part of that Fred group.
Well, I did want to make it aspirational in that way. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was important to me that this group of young women was in love with each other, and that translated off screen, and that this was really a film about women upholding and uplifting each other, because that was my experience in high school. I had a really tight-knit group of women that were really like my lifeline at a very difficult time. So I feel like all too rare that you see those relationships portrayed. So I wanted to make sure that was a priority.
I'm always so curious when you're writing something like witchcraft that has this added element to it, where really like you could kind of write in anything, right? Like it's kind of up to you. What goes into like deciding their powers, or like what spells that like that's I feel like that's something I'm like, ooh, why did they decide that she could do this?
Well, it was interesting because I'd never written or created anything that allowed me to like let my imagination just run buck wild, you know what I mean? So it was a cool opportunity to be like, you know, to speak to a VFX house and just be like, I imagine this insane thing, and then being like, all right, let's see what we could do. You know, it wasn't like the micro budget, like indie rom-com world that I had come from. So it was really, to me, about like getting in touch with my teenage self and thinking about what I wished I could have done. And then I also worked with 3 occult consultants who are all practicing witches. Pam Grossman was one of them, and she was really helpful in devising the spells and just making sure that the witchcraft that we were portraying was authentic to the community.
That's so cool. Do you feel like you learned like a little bit? Could you do it?
I learned a ton. Yeah. Could I do it? I mean, I think we're all witches, you know. I'm definitely like a believer. And I think anyone who's a believer in the power of women, not that only women practice witchcraft, but I do think that there is a specific and singular power that women have, and I'm including trans women when I say that. Obviously, that is just like inherently witchy. And I think like the history of witch hunting is very much hand in hand with the history of the patriarchy and those institutions being threatened by women's inherent power.
I mean, I think that's, you know, part of the reason why people loved the original movies so much, is just because it felt like it was just like women taking back their power and doing that. And I feel like that, I'm sure when you came to it, was a through line that you felt was like, I mean, I feel like that's sort of the foundation of the craft and why that film is so beloved. And I think what makes your film so great was that kind of what you would consider like the first building block of that story.
Yeah, I think it was so exciting, especially as like a young woman, to watch just like the badassery of the original, you know, and to watch young women have the space to be villains and still be like cool as hell, and to like take vengeance on all of the people who had tortured them. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely a foundation of the original. I think in reimagining it, I definitely wanted to shift just like the outcome. Yeah, so I think that was like on a macro level something that I definitely sought out to do from the jump.
We have to talk about casting David Duchovny because he's so good.
But it's nice, isn't it? to have a family unit.
Come on in to meet the boys. They're really excited to meet you.
I mean, did you have him in mind when you were writing? Like, how did that come about?
I generally don't write with cast in mind, even if I'm like huge stan of someone like Double D. Once he like became a possibility, I was just like, oh my God, like obviously David Duchovny is this character. And yeah, I was such a fan of his and continue to be. And he's such a brilliant actor and like just brings so many, amazing Duchovnyisms to the part.
Well, thank you, Zoe, so much.
Thank you so much. It's so nice talking to you.
Truly, I cannot wait for the world to see this movie. It's so good.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me.